ahead and get started. It is Monday, April 27th, 2026 at 6:01 p.m. in the Susan Tully Lively Boardroom of the 1887 building. I'd like to start the evening out with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Mr. Tadlock, would you take roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Andre.
Here.
Mayor Gordon.
Here.
Mrs. Ingersoll.
Here.
Mrs. Costa. Excuse. Mrs. Reckles.
Here.
Mr. Scarrow.
Here.
Mrs. Vaughn.
Here.
Mr. Grieving.
Here.
Ms. Krakowski.
Here. Okay. We do have a quorum. This meeting has been noticed per state statute. I did not receive any community participation cards, so we will move forward into the Career and College Academy student presentation. And Chick, you want to go with us?
Hi, good evening. I'm
Good
Kelly Demrath. I am the principal of the Career and College Academy, and in September, the Southern Lakes College Academy. Thank you all very much.
That's right.
Tonight is a very special night. It's not just sharing what's going on at the school. It's quite a celebration. We want you all to be part of it, and we are celebrating Trevin Walbrand. He will be the first student at Career and College Academy to achieve his associate degree at Gateway Technical College.
Awesome.
So if we could have a round.
Absolutely.
We are joined by his parents, Kelly and Joe. And I have to say, and we have AJ Silver, the coordinator of the Edge to SLC program, but we're going to brag on you a bit. Is that okay? And you can ask questions. Trevin has been an incredibly dedicated student. He joined in his right before his junior year, so he was able to accomplish this in 2 years.
That's amazing.
Which is 63 credits. I think you had more than that with your honors classes from the high school.
AP classes from that.
Yeah. So he has done an incredible body of work in a really short time. It has spanned not only Gateway Technical College, but UW Whitewater, and he is taking all of this where next year? Where have you committed?
You could be Platteville.
Nice.
So, Mrs. Salamone, will you want to share your experiences with Trevin?
So Trevin's an outstanding student, a student we would all like to have in our classroom, whether it's in one building or the other. He will do exceptionally well at UW Platteville, I have no doubt. I believe you had straight A's in every college class. So this semester, he did spend the semester at UW Whitewater and taking classes that are part of his program that he will be going into at UW Platteville. So he'll be able to step in as a junior, even though he's 18 years old and have a couple more years to go to get his bachelor's degree.
And Trevin has also been awarded from Gateway Technical College the Dean's List because of number of credits and his wonderful grade point average. So there's so much to recommend him going forward. But when you think of that guiding light of the program or that model student, Trevin absolutely exemplifies that. So I thank him. I thank Kelly and Joe for sharing him with us.
And the professors also have been thankful and have said every single semester that they are thankful to have Trevin in the class, to have you part of the program, and just really think a lot of you.
That's tremendous.
Any questions for Trevin?
I came in a moment late, so I apologize. What is your course of study?
My associate's is of science through Gateway and Whitewater, and then at Platteville, I'll be doing construction management.
Fantastic,
Nice.
excellent.
Yay.
Now, will you receive the associates through Whitewater or through Gateway?
It'll be through Gateway.
Just so the board knows, they have the option, Whitewater also implemented an associate's degree program, so you can earn it through Whitewater if you take, I think there's a minimum of 15 credits on the Whitewater campus, or you can complete it through Gateway. From the transfer for system, I don't think that there's not a big difference between either of the two institutes, correct?
Wonderful.
Fantastic. This is very exciting and for Trevin to be the first.
Yeah, how many more students do we have that, like, what are we looking at projection for next year?
There should be about 21 is what we're looking at. And that will earn an associate's degree from Gateway or Whitewater.
I believe Options has their first cohort of UW Green Bay next year as well, which
Okay.
is another 4 or 5.
Yeah. Wonderful.
It's really exciting.
But
It's really the planting the seeds and starting the program and having people think differently, like the wall rants.
And the amount of money that you saved, tremendous.
I think it's wonderful. So
And independence that
Yes.
students have learned.
what would you say to someone thinking about this opportunity? What would be your advice?
I think if you're planning on going to college or you think it's an open door, you definitely should try it out. Definitely is worth its benefits. You mentioned the savings. It helps a lot for your future.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, congratulations. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Congratulations to Trevin and.
Thank you.
One last. Yeah. And I have one more little piece.
Real quick, Kevin, are you going to walk at the gateway ceremony?
Yeah, we Gateway and.
All right, which night are you doing it?
I think
The Tuesday or the Wednesday night?
He's,
Or which
you're not,
Gateway one,
you're
because there's two.
to the Lake Geneva one, so whatever one that was.
CCA.
It's CCA, yes.
So you're not doing the Gateway Associate's Degree graduation?
So.
Very
And do you want my little piece?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
I have one more piece. We thankfully submitted all of our documentation to DPI, our wonderful grant people there. And that had, remember the time that I put you all to sleep with all the contracts and whatnot, the real snooze fest, but it was great in terms of establishing what it's going to look like for our school in our direction. To have two charters under one entity and to then authorize them. Our contract, everything looked great except one percentage that we needed to change, and that was in the number of students who could be related to governance board members or employees of the charters. And so we had to move that from 20% to 10%. And we needed a signed amendment for that. But everything else, thankfully, looked great and was in line. And for DPI, it was unique as well. So it had to go through a couple channels to be like, okay, is this exactly what we're thinking about? And it was really in line. So
Good.
Do you have any questions for me?
Because we need to make a formal.
Or we need to make a
amendment.
motion for
Motion to amend.
20 to 10%. Are we at risk of hitting that threshold?
No.
Okay, good.
we're-
Is that
we're
for
gonna
both
overstep.
streams combined, or is
It's
that
separate.
because Southern Lakes? Okay. So if there's 50 kids in the school, you would have seats for no more than 5 could be related to employees or
Governance.
board. Now, is that employees of the district or just employees of the charter?
Charter.
Okay,
Okay.
that gives.
So on the governance for employees of the charter.
Okay,
And how related is related?
Because I was wondering about like grandchildren,
Yeah.
things of that nature. And
So is it just children?
It's immediate family.
Okay.
I think where they get concerns, they don't want someone, little group to go and start their boutique charter school for the kids of the governance board and
Yes.
so forth. And where we're not turning kids or families away, that's the only time it would really come up as an issue, is if we were capping it, not letting.
And that's
People-
actually federal guidance, not just our state guidance.
Okay.
Because we have not worked with charters outside of Wisconsin, and we talk about the application, and they said that the application does have to have those points in it, so.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so looking for a motion
I'm gonna
to,
make a motion to approve the amendment to the charter school contract, changing it from 20% to 10%. And this has to do with the percentage of such children given preference constitutes no more than 10% of the charter school's total enrollment. So.
okay? Is there a
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to change the charter school contract for children of current governance board members and employees of the charter schools. Cannot be more than 10% of the charter school's total enrollment. That's a change from 20 to 10. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. We're good to go. Thank you very much.
I'm just gonna note, as Jody's going through the minutes, Kathy Kostak is present, was present for that.
Okay, thank you. All right, we are moving on to the election of school board officers. We do this each year after the election, and we did not have any new board members this year. Mr. Andre and Mrs. Wesley's, right? Yeah, ran unopposed, so no changes there. As the president, I, would start by asking for nominations for the office of president. I am going to kind of preface this section by saying that I will not accept a nomination for president this year. I need to step away from the position, not from the board. I will continue to carry out my last year of time on the board, but I am going to step away from being the president. And then I would like to follow up with making a nomination for the office of president. I would like to nominate Mr. Andre. Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Okay, then I'm going to ask for a motion to close the nominations.
I move to end nominations.
Second.
All right, and then we just, can we do a voice vote, or do we need to do a?
You can do a
Roll
voice
call.
vote.
We can do a voice vote, okay, so all in favor for Mr. Andre to be the president of the school board, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Well, we've just nominated you. Do you accept?
I certainly humbly and am honored to accept.
Okay, so you get to run the rest of the meeting.
So the first on that close was Kyle, the second was, who closed the?
He's had-
Sorry.
No, I'm gonna switch positions with you. Good grief, I need to move on.
Definitely should check out that college.
But now, no.
Domino's versus six.
Thank you for accepting.
Oh, I don't use the word humbled often, but definitely humbled that you guys, thank you. I guess now I'm stuck here for the next 15 years. I'll see what you guys do. I'm stuck.
I've never sat on this side of the table.
No sevens.
I apologize. I was used. Better you come that way.
All right.
Okay, so then you'll pick up with, the vice
Yeah,
president.
let's-
You do the same process.
Gotcha. So looking for nominations for vice president of this school.
Nominate Ed.
I'll second that.
You have to ask it 3 times.
Okay, any more nominations for vice president of school board? Any more nominations for vice president of school board?
I move to end nominations.
I'll second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded for Ed to become the vice president of school board.
No.
Stay all in favor?
Aye.
Walk through it. Give it a while.
I will accept.
Yeah.
I will accept.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Shall we do what's up next, treasurer?
Treasurer's next.
Yes.
Okay. Looking for nominations for treasurer of the school board.
I nominate Kathy.
Okay.
Looking for a second.
I'll second it.
Okay. Looking for nominations for treasurer of the school board. Looking for nominations, treasurer of the school board.
Move to end nominations.
I'll second it.
Okay. Moved and seconded. We're all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Kathy's the treasurer. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Looking for nominations for secretary.
Clerk.
Clerk, sorry. We're going in order. Looking for nominations for clerk.
I nominate Heather.
I'll accept.
I'll second it.
Looking for nominations for clerk. Nominations for clerk.
And I move to end nominations.
Second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Secretary.
No.
Deputy
Sorry,
clerk.
Deputy clerk.
Deputy clerk. Isn't it written down somewhere?
It is,
Aye.
it's on the board
The
notes.
board notes.
I'd like to nominate Bridget. Deputy clerk. Did you accept?
I don't know if I can.
Okay.
Schedule. Sorry. I nominate Kyle for deputy clerk.
Do I have to sign diplomas?
No.
No.
Okay.
It's purple tunnel.
We can get to, Steve.
The wheels are falling off. Wait a minute.
More nominations.
Any more nominations for deputy clerk? Nominations for deputy clerk.
Can I move to end
I'll move
nominations?
to end the nominations.
Okay,
All in favor?
all in favor for Kyle?
Aye.
Okay, congratulations.
Well, that was less complicated than I thought it was gonna be. I thought there was gonna be more movement, so. Glad it was simple.
It's nice, it makes it easier on the signs.
Yeah. Hey,
About the size.
sorry about that.
I'll get, remind me to get you a pin in that big stack of the diplomas, so we need the president to sign them and the clerk,
That's why.
yeah. So,
And you better be here.
I do get to sign my kids' diplomas, so that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. There you go.
yeah,
No, Julia, I just thought you had your own separate thing that you were reading off of. I guess not. Just close it. Notes.
If you use the board notes, it's, it makes it pretty easy.
4K presentation.
So up next, 4K presentation and approval of district 4K magnet list. Very weird seeing you like this.
Yeah, good, they're a tough act to follow. Ryan McBurney, Director of Special Education.
Tammy Fisher, Principal of Jackson, as well as 4K Coordinator.
Thanks for having us here tonight. I know briefly it came up at the budget retreat about some potential savings related to 4K, so we wanted to get in front of you and just kind of walk you through the process that we've gone through this year for our proposal to add kind of a magnet site here at Jackson Elementary School. So going back years, you know that we've had a long-standing relationship with the centers and the community where our 4K classrooms have been located. Not surprisingly, like everything else in education in our world, there's things have changed and we've had to evolve with that. Most recently this year, we have a self-contained classroom of 4K students at Jackson. So the students with IEPs are just in a special education environment and not a regular education environment, which is really obviously in response to those students' individual needs, but really kind of a marker of a trend too, of some things and some ports that we really want to get in place for our neediest learners at that age. So again, big picture, what we're going to be proposing is adding an additional 4K sites. So one classroom, morning and afternoon at Jackson Elementary School here. In terms of why, it's again the needs that those kids have, and this is not an indictment anyway of the centers. And I just really want to make that clear because they've been a wonderful partner to us this year and all years. But there's a level of support that we can provide to our neediest learners with the team that we have here, right? You know, we don't have a dedicated school psychologist, a social worker, assistant principals at the 4K centers. We have a special education teacher who's previously serviced the 4K centers, which results in them being here one day or one morning, and then they move to the different sites. So even they are not on site at all times. So that has led to, I think, probably some gaps in coverage for some of those students, and then probably a lack of support for just in general, because we're just kind of very stretched thin in that regard. And we've tried to mitigate through the years by centrally locating our students with IEPs in one site or another to help with that. But invariably what happens is through our child find processes, more students become identified as the year goes on. But for example, this year we had most of our students with IEPs out at Lakeland Little, and then we had somebody get identified at a different site. Past practice would be to then kind of move that student to the other site, which is a disruption to them and potentially their family's choice going into the year as well. This year, that student had a twin. So it was like, you can't split, you can't do that. So then we have to somehow kind of circle the wagons and rearrange that coverage, which is difficult. And then this year too, through just, absences, things like that, we left our 4K centers a little bit, on the lurch, which is something that we think we can address with having it in-house. So again, that's kind of the larger picture of why. So we kind of throughout the course of the year met with each of the centers and kind of engaged them in a dialogue about them running one of their classrooms out of Jackson here to kind of meet those needs that we kind of just discussed. For a variety of reasons, they were not interested in doing that here, which made sense. One site's got multiple 4K teachers, which means then they couldn't collaborate anymore. They're not across the hall from each other. We understand that. Other site mentioned, just a little bit of apprehension about the unknown, like, well, what happens if we see that increase in enrollment that we want to see? We're running out of space in the classroom. What happens to us then? So I think fair concerns that were brought up on their parts, although I think they universally agreed that they thought it was what would be best for our students with IEPs. But so that didn't shake out. So our looking at it is there a way that we can still do this? Mrs. Fisher came up with the idea, so we're going to give her all of yours. There's an idea. How can we do this under the restriction of, like, we understand what the current financial situation is, how can we do it without adding staffing? And the answer was, well, if we have somebody that can be both the special education teacher and the regular education teacher, then they could run the classroom. And that's a position that we already have accounted for in the budget, so we're not adding staffing to do that. And we think we've identified the perfect candidate to do that, and has those licenses and experiences, which will be great. In terms of more like the nitty gritty details, again, it would be Jackson here. They'll have the room that's connected to our early childhood room, so our 3-year-old play group, and AM session as well as a PM session.
Okay.
Each session would be capped at 18 students. Each session would have 4 to 5 students with IEPs in it. Again, back to kind of what I talked about earlier, like, so what does that mean for those kids? It means that Mrs. Fisher's right there, Mr. Rivera's right there, Kate Irwin, our school psych is there, Taylor Fettig, our social worker, our crisis response team if we need it. There's 2 sensory rooms. So from a support lens, I think we couldn't be in a better position, and all of that again is without having to bring anybody new in. And the one of the final kind of hurdles that we had to look at was the transportation end too. So you'll see kind of on the proposal here that we included the language that we currently use for our transportation. So that's so that doesn't go up. Basically, if a kid lives within the Jackson Attendance Center, they'll get bused here, just like normal. We already do that. If they need to go to one of the centers for wraparound care, we'll do that. We already have the routes running at that time. And then let me back up one thing. Sorry, I skipped the bullet point. Like 18 kids, what's the makeup of that classroom? So we talked about the 4 to 5 students with IEPs, which we already kind of moved and located at one center anyway, so that's new. How do we make up the rest of the class? We didn't want to pull just from Jackson's population, because then that would have an impact on Lakeland Middle Learners, the 4K center that's associated with Jackson. So our proposal is to open it up as a lottery. If you're interested, like, let us know. We'll eventually do a lottery if we get to the 36 plus kids that it would be. It's the exact same process that we use for our 3-year-old play group, and have had success with. And then it's upfront with families too, that like if you are in, say, the Tibbetts attendance area and you do get selected to a lottery and you want to do it, then that transportation is kind of on your end. It's the same thing we do for play group. It's the same process we have if you were to be a Tibbetts family now and elect to go to Lakeland Middle Learners. So it's no change there, but that's how we round out the rest of the students in the classroom. So then, like I said, transportation remains the same. Our goal is still to keep everything else that we have running. This is an additional program to maintain all of our sites that are currently up and running, who maybe have some reductions that they've already alerted us to. So this kind of fits a need. And yeah, still have our same professional development days that we have with our 4K centers, follow the same curriculum, just more of a centralizing of resources. So with that, we want to take your questions.
Before questions, I would add, like, as we discussed at the budget retreat, we had offered this to all 3 of the programs at no cost to utilize the room, which in theory would create more space within their own centers. All 3 turned us down on that. And so at this point moving forward, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that they are probably amongst those 3 daycare centers. I've heard from at least one director that they are concerned with the loss of, students that, would be attending this program instead of at their 4K center.
They didn't think about that when they turned you down.
I don't know, why
The
they,
opportunity.
yeah, we gave the opportunity to have a family room and
Yeah.
encouraged to, develop or incorporate some programs that the state had that would have offered additional programming, so maybe they'll look at that moving forward, but, yeah, I would be remiss if I didn't. I wouldn't want any of you to be blindsided by some of the 4K centers that they're like, hey, we're gonna lose more numbers and it's already a small section. But from the district standpoint perspective, that's why we offered to all of them first. And we needed to not only provide a better programming and service by consolidating that, but it's also program efficiency. We just can't duplicate special education programming at all those different sites. And like they said, it's not a great experience, not as good an experience that you could have for those 4 kids with the higher special education needs, not having any age peers, non-disabled age peers with them. And the parents who do choose to send the kids here, they know that, yes, this is also the magnet program for students with disabilities. So, they shouldn't have blinders on or, wonder that, there's a student with a special challenge. I mean, that you're sending into our magnet program as well, and it's voluntary. So it's not.
And most of the students that have IEPs were in a play group where they were in our early childhood. So then they'll just move rooms to 4K, and then the kids that are supposed to be at Jackson would go to kindergarten, and then the other kindergartners will go to their home school.
And we're pretty confident we'll have the interest in the desire due to the very positive, or I don't know if I'd say overwhelming response for playgroup. Could you speak to how the playgroup response has been? Or?
Yeah, again, it's a lottery system where we take families that choose to bring their child here to be a peer for the kids that have a disability. Mm-hmm. So we used to just have a self-contained early childhood classroom with 3-year-olds. So they didn't have any typical peers to model with and play with and hear their speech. So it really has been a successful program, and we have more than enough volunteers to be peers. Mm-hmm. And they do drive their kids here. Only the students with special needs receive the special ed bus. So they drive them and pick them up those are 2-day-a-week peer groups because they're only 3. This would be 5 days a week because that's what 4K is.
Yeah.
5 days a week, half days. Yep.
So what happens if a child with an IEP gets discovered in one of the other feeder schools during the school year? How will they handle that? Will they continue to send them?
So
what if we're at capacity?
But like I mentioned earlier, the past practice has been to move them to a different site. So now we're going to move you into Jackson, which is a change. It's the best fit of the sites available at that time.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't come up with another scenario where there's twins, right?
Right.
Or triplets. I've never seen so many triplets as there are in this town.
That's why we put the initial cap at 18 though, so that we would have room to add 3 students or so to each section.
Okay.
Not that, because it's not uncommon in our 4K sites to have sections of 20, low 20s.
Okay.
So that gives us the ability to add a couple more.
And we don't have the same square footage restrictions that like the daycare centers have.
Yeah,
so
they have to work under daycare licenses as well as state licensing.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
When do you start the IEP process? I mean, when do you identify at 3?
3. They come from birth to 3 in the county, and then we transition them at 3 for public school.
That is completely different than what my experience was when my son was in school. Completely different. Like I was told there are no supports basically for IEP until 9th grade back then.
I worked in education, and I didn't realize until one of my children had a speech delay that, oh wait, you can get services at 2. He was age 2. And
wow.
they would come to the house for their services, and then
and then they just transition. Yep. I have a son that was in birth to 3, and then when he aged out at 3, then you go into public education.
What's the max number of students in a 4K?
It depends on their licensing and their square footage. So right now, I think Lakeland Little Learners has 22. Step Ahead, I think, is around 18 to 20, and then Kitty Cottage's rooms are much smaller, so I think they're at 15. But it's because of their square footage.
Right, but we would not fall under that same.
Correct. We're not a daycare, correct?
Okay,
So we
so
don't fall under that.
do we have a cap of number of students though? Would we cap a classroom of 4K, knowing that we're gonna have 4 to 5, at least at inception, or what did you say, 4 to 5 special students with special needs?
I think we don't cap any number, and you also want it to be where it's a best program for everybody. Yeah,
Right, because do you have a student to teacher ratio that you have to maintain? Or
Nope. I think there's some rulings where what percent of special ed versus regular ed, I don't think you can have more special ed students than regular ed.
right,
So that you want to keep 40% or
I
whatever.
was gonna roll into that question next.
40%-ish we shoot for, right?
So we set it at 18 because we felt that was a large enough number, right, to gather interest from the students, maintain that kind of proportional relationship between our regular ed students and our special ed students, as well as give us like a little bit of flexibility as we potentially identify more students or more students move in. And the other component of that too is right now we currently also employ 2 special education paraprofessionals that service the 4K centers, which would then be those paraprofessionals at the room here for that additional support. And Tammy had talked about using one of her regular education aides too at those kind of hotspot times, like arrival, bathroom break, the dismissal, right?
Yeah.
When everybody get their backpack off.
Yeah.
In between those times, there's invariably another adult in the room between occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, plus Ms. Kitzmiller too, when she had some gaps in there, talked about doing some specially designed instruction in there as well. So I think from us adults in the building perspective, we're in a really good spot.
And all those itinerant people work at Jackson. We have a PT in our school, we have an OT, we have speech, so they won't be having to go to all 3 centers all the time.
Yeah.
Obviously, kids with speech only will be in the centers, and so the speech pathologist will, do their IEP minutes at the other centers. Sure.
I guess to answer your question more directly, like we have it set at 18 right now. So in my mind, to go above that 18 would mean that we have more students that have qualified for special education.
And not just speech only.
And not just speech only.
Yeah, so the lottery will be capped at, if they have 7 students with IEPs outside of that speech and language pathology identification, then they would take up 7 of the potential 36 seats. The remaining, that would be 29 seats, would be open to students without a disability, and then that would be capped. And then the school year starts, if they identify 2 or 3 students throughout the year that have high needs that are best serviced at that location, then they would transfer and they could exceed that 18 cap, but it's not opening. So there is a lottery possibility if we have more applications of with students without those more severe disabilities. And then the only ones added would be those with more severe disabilities. But from a district policy standpoint, we do not have a cap on classroom size. We have a policy that speaks to not being able to add students who are open enrolled. And for kindergarten through 2nd grade, that's 25. Is that correct? So the 1st grade class already has 25 students. Then an open enrolled student can't be added to that class. They would need to be assigned to a different location. In grades 3 through 5th grade, the policy states it's 30. That when they hit that 30, no more open enrolled students could be assigned to that class section. So that's what our policy speaks to. It doesn't speak to an actual hard cap on a class size.
And professional development days, I know there's something, used to be Wednesday, like one Wednesday a month?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. So that's when we bring all the centers together, as it would include a teacher from Jackson that we do RPB. Mhm. I think this year with 4 self-contained students, we couldn't put them in the centers because they need maybe another room to, if it's too loud or those kinds of things, where we kind of just had to absorb them at Jackson. It wasn't something we had planned, but it was the least restrictive environment for those kiddos. So we couldn't do that in the centers, and this was kind of the first time that happened. So Miss Ransom, one of our kindergarten special ed teachers, took those 4 kids on as well.
Okay. Okay, good plan. I'm going to approve the district 4K didactic program as presented.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the District 4K magnet program as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm gonna abstain. Can't, I don't have enough information. I need to digest more of this.
Do we need to roll call
I
that
noted
then?
it.
Okay. Moving on to the appointment of.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appointment of the CISA 2 delegate. Yep. Can I nominate Kyle?
Well, yeah, that's easy to delegate.
It's a very simple job.
So you'll do it
Yeah.
again. On that, nominate Kyle will continue to be our CISA.
I don't have to sign anything.
I'll second. Thank you, guys.
Been moved and seconded to approve Kyle for the appointment of CISA 2 delegate. All in favor?
Aye. You needed that answer.
Opposed?
Anybody opposed?
Opposed? Okay, so moved. Moving on to the approval of the minutes. Yeah, and do we have to do the stuff?
Oh,
Yeah.
here's your copy.
Yeah,
there.
That's the closed session.
On the board, notes there are 2 motions.
Gotcha.
I'll move to approve the minutes of the April 13th, 2026 regular session school board meeting as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the April 13th, 2026 regular session school board meeting as presented. And it's roll call.
Right.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Andre,
Yes.
Eric Gordon,
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll,
Abstain?
Mrs. Costa,
Yes.
Mrs. Reckles,
Abstain.
Mr. Scarrow,
Yes.
Mrs. Vaughn,
Yes.
Mr. Grieving,
Yes.
Ms. Krakowski.
Yes.
Closed session.
Yep.
I'll move to approve the minutes of the April 15th, 2026 closed session school board meeting as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the April 15th, 2026 closed session school board meeting as presented. Roll call vote. Yeah.
Mr. Andre,
Yes.
Eric Gordon,
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Costa,
Yes.
Mrs. Reckles,
Yes.
Mr. Scarrow,
Yes.
Mrs. Vaughn,
Yes.
Mr. Grieving,
Abstain.
Ms. Krakowski.
Abstain.
Okay. Moving on to the general and other fund bills.
Business office offers for approval the following U.S. Bank check numbers 1555739 to 1555743. BMO check numbers 162078 to 162207. Wire numbers 1360 and ACH numbers 749 to 785. And the combined amount of $275,918.88. Any questions? Otherwise, I have some notes on
You wanna, for those at home or those, you wanna share the voids and?
Yeah, that was
presentation.
so the voids up top, usually the voids are just fit into the general fund, the numbers. But with the one void of, hey, there you all are. With the, that Department of Health Services check that got returned, it finally got voided and off the books. So if we would have put that money back in, all of a sudden it looks like we only spent like $20,000. And that would be a misrepresentation of what we actually spent. So most of the voids happen, and it's something like we sent somebody a check, they lost it in the mail, we sent them another one and so like usually that's just transact, right? So
And remind me why that one got returned. We paid it twice or something?
they found us to be not at fault.
Oh.
And so they returned the check in an envelope addressed to the school district without any explanation. It was just a check.
Yes.
And so then I reached out to them and they sent a nice formal letter that said that, here's your money back. Find any fault for now. And left it at that.
Yeah.
So,
Originally,
if we move.
Yeah. Originally, we sent them the check because they said that we had made more claims than we were eligible for.
We double claimed.
That's what it was. I'm like, I know something was.
And then they said, you're all right.
Right. So we complied, and then they said, no, you're okay, and then we sent the money back.
Yeah. I have a fun
So
story.
we're not gonna just put that in a special account to leave, just in case they come back to us again. We're just-
The wording said that that's done on their account. So
Okay.
super exciting, I know.
Mhm.
I have a comment under the billing stuff. So, the scoreboard was removed from the gym.
Okay.
And there was, at one point, there was gonna be a hefty price tag on that, several $1,000s to get that old scoreboard removed. I noticed it, some other people noticed it, and I asked Jason and Nick about it. And if anybody asks, it was removed for $200 with a rental of a scissor lift, and some of the maintenance guys got it down. So I think it was $8,000 to remove this thing a couple years ago.
It may have been when we got an original quote, so we left it up.
Yeah.
And then, Nick and the team felt like, you know what, if we get a second scissor lift, we can take it down, and they did, and they found, what do you say, 40 balls?
Yeah.
So $5 a ball, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also it's good just not to have things hanging in the ceiling that you don't need. I mean, we had the curtain at the middle school fall down a couple of years ago, and the batting cage fall down recently.
When was the last time it was operational?
So it's good just not to have stuff hanging.
I haven't seen it operational for many, many years.
Okay.
No, it's never been operational since I've been here. It's a neat looking old style scoreboard. I think there's some sentimental piece of that, but it wasn't able to be retrofitted on works.
Yeah, it wasn't safe, it got in the way of some of the sports. We were able to get it down for it.
Apparently it was a bucket for the volleyballs.
And that many $6 individual checks, that's what happens, if you don't spend all the money you collect for summer school fees.
You gotta spend the money.
You have to spend the money, so when we were going through a membership audit, it was discovered that we didn't have any invoices in the $6 for jump ropes.
So these parents have been charged $6 for
Correct.
part of the fees
So you have to
system.
refund all.
So then we,
Well,
and it'll be a finding in our membership audit, just as a heads up. And
But that's unique to summer school. Summer school fees have to be a direct. You have to show that you spent the money on consumables for summer school.
so I just thought it was worth it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure that scoreboard will come up because everybody's was asked a whole bunch of times, but I just want to let everybody know.
Right, any other questions?
Any other discussion?
No, I just want to thank the maintenance team for taking care of it itself and having that in turn.
That's great. It saves several $1,000s in an eyesore. Now we're net positive with a bunch of extra volleyballs. Where we can, right? Looking for a motion.
I move to approve the general and other fund bills of April 27th, 2026. US Bank check numbers 155739 to 155743. BMO check numbers 162078 to 162207. Wire number 1360 and ACH number 749 to 785. And the combined amount of $275,918.88 as presented.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the general and other fund bills, April 27th, 2026. US Bank check numbers 155739 to 155743. BMO check numbers 162078 to 162207. Wire number 1360 and ACH numbers 749 to 785. In the combined amount, $275,918.88 as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right, students, you guys are up.
Okay, so starting off, we have our top 10 ever recognized with their plaque. Up here we had English Schmieden, Kylie Schmitz, Eva Sepsenauer. However you say it,
Zephyr.
get it wrong every time. Camper Greenswick, Maya, Genevieve Van Klapper. Yeah. Okay. Kona, Luke, Evie, Luke Paddock, and Kyron Lyle. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, congratulations.
Save the date. This Wednesday they have the e-portfolio night. So if anyone wants to go and look at some e-portfolios, those are always really cool to see what everyone's done. And then the autos class representatives went to a top tech competition in Appleton and won approximately $47,000 in equipment, scholarships, and toolboxes.
That's fantastic.
Wow. And then these last two, CCA kind of had the same too. So CCA and the high school had prom this weekend. It was Enchanted Garden, and it was a lot of fun. It was at the Abbey, and then afterwards we went to the water park at Grand Geneva.
Did you have fun?
I had so much fun. And then the Chicago, the musical, it was Saturday and Sunday, rescheduled due to the bad weather, but it was still a great show.
And then I was just gonna say the like $47,000 for the autos club. I think like 37,000 of that is like through scholarships. And one of the guys who participated in it, he's gonna go there actually. And so through that school, he's getting basically all of it covered. And then they gotta take home like thousands of dollars in like tools and different equipment. So that's so. Anyways, at the Olympics, there was an administrator named Revi who is actually part of a basketball team in the Special Olympics. So they had a state send off for her with all the students and staff. And then the other week, Walworth County executive came to the middle school and actually presented the school with America's quincentennial flag.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so some of the social studies were able to come down and be a part of that presentation and learn more about the history of it. Then the new makerspace classes participated in a little project that they called Create the Nestles package for Earth Day. So essentially, partnering with Nestle, they create yeah, thank you. They try and create different packages that are like eco-friendly and have zero waste, and they're actually able to send some of the entries in, and then the top 10 go in front of the Nestle executives and present them. And then also the allied arts classes have been going and taking classes in order to get ready for the next school year. And then the Gunyon family, I believe, donated a bunch of balls for the recess classes.
Nice.
So Jackson, with all the other elementary schools, had a numerous amount of students who participated in the EASD Creativity Conference. A lot of fun art and slides and stuff just to look at. And then coming up, they have the color run. It's a 5K run only, 2-mile walker run. It's $30 and it's held by the Jackson Elementary PTA.
Is that a fundraiser for something or?
Yeah, it's, I think it was the PTA.
Okay, fundraiser for the PTA, got it.
And then at Tibbetts, they had their family trek night where the students are able to bring parents, siblings, and go throughout the school to go through different challenges and games and follow clues throughout the school. Staff is also able to be part of that experience and lead the students and the families through it. And then on top of that, the fifth graders the other day were able to have a a field trip at Trackside. Where they were roller skating, have a pizza party, all of that. And then also their students participated in the creativity conference as well.
At Westside, coming up, kindergarten through second grade will be presenting their musical spring concert. My bad. Friday, May 1st at 1:30 p.m. And then they also had a couple students participate in the creativity fair. Mrs. Royak's class earned a picnic outside for a celebration of hitting their 60th paw. The fourth grade class made frogs. And the bottom right is Miss S's library class. Fourth grade students are exploring stop motion animation by creating scenes to bring their stories to life. Throughout this month, they've been focusing on the building or skills as animators, and the students are using their program SkipBot 2.0 to design and produce their own stop motion animation projects.
Paws are just like things they earn for like good behavior.
Thank you for explaining that. I was actually wondering.
I'm pretty sure they have those at all 3 elementary schools. I think like Jackson's like a fish or something, and then Tibbetts have paws. At Options, they had a couple of students, 10 students that were able to display their art and receive different awards through the Walworth County Arts Council. So their work was recognized and they were able to go to a presentation to talk about it. And then also, a couple of months ago, we talked about a student who went to a national yo-yo competition. And so Options actually made a documentary, well, a very short one, showcasing like his experience and then also talking about his brother who also goes to Options and is able to do hobbies like yo-yo as well and hockey with them.
And then finally, we have our congratulations to all the retirees here.
We have a couple more that just came through.
Yeah.
Well, yep, a couple more that will be eventually.
That's it.
All right, thank you guys.
You
do like a student presentation.
I mean, neither of us could talk to it.
That's okay.
Long weekend.
You can have an off day.
So much talk.
Discussion of school board committee assignments. I just looked them all over. Is everybody good with what current assignments are? Do we want to look at that or swap out or anything? Julie, you on the WASB delegate still and everything?
So I feel like I've been the WASB delegate now for probably the last I've been it for the last 5 years. With me going off the board in the end of next March, I guess it would be right of next year, the delegate goes to the state convention in January. I feel like it would be a good idea to have somebody else do that and get their feet wet in that and understand what that's all about. So I would prefer not to be the delegate for 2027. But I'm happy to stay on transportation and policy. I'd like to stay on policy to see through the whole Neola process since I started with that. I think at this point it would be difficult to bring somebody in new.
No, this was very specific to WASB. You have to stay on policy for.
Oh my God.
So we're done with all that. We're way too.
No, we had a transportation meeting. But
Do we, I don't.
So
I'm
the president
Yeah.
has one of your duties to appoint or assign the committees, so asking if there's anyone that's wanting to switch now is perfectly all right. You can send a survey and then redo it if you want.
I've typically done a survey in the past and people just fill that out and give their levels of interest and.
Yeah, I mean, if we're good with the rest of them, and we just want to figure out WASB and if anybody wants to do it.
Or if there's somebody that wants to make a switch on something.
Sure.
Let Mr. Andre know.
So WASB, the delegation assembly is on the Thursday of the convention, or is it Wednesday?
It's Wednesday. It's the first full day of the convention.
So it's on that Wednesday. If there's someone else that would like to be the.
No, it's the afternoon. Typically I've gone though in the morning and sometimes if there's a session that sounds interesting, I'll attend the very first session, but then I like to go to the keynote speaker and general session. I think that starts at 10. And then we usually break for lunch and then the delegation starts at 1:30. And the last few years, they've really done a much better job of narrowing those things down. So it typically only lasts 2.5 hours. Now my very first year, it went like 8 hours and I was ready to strangle somebody. But
the topics that they put forward at the delegate assembly.
correct. The last couple of years, they've been much better about narrowing those down to like 12, 13 things so that it's not as bad. But
Kyle, you feel like you're interested in things.
I'm thinking about.
Okay.
I'm thinking about.
We have plenty of time too. We can appoint that before. Yeah.
All right, you ready yet?
No.
Okay.
You're gonna have to give me at least 24 hours.
You got it.
Sounds like everyone else is good at the committee's role. Okay.
Roll. Discussion of ICRA. Health and insurance fund for staff.
I'll go ahead and turn it over to. You want me to? This is for the most part, it's pretty similar to the presentation that we're sharing with the staff. We've gone and met with 2 staff groups. I think there's a total when we divide it out, 10 that we'll be meeting with over the next couple of weeks. Again, one of the things that we share with them is that, as a reminder, we were facing a $1.8 million budgetary shortfall for this coming school year. Of that shortfall, because oftentimes, when we're in referendum mode, people would say, well, gee, you must be really irresponsible with your finances. How are you, short 1.8 million? Of that 1.8 million, 850,000 of it is roughly due to forecasting a 3% pay increase for staff. If you don't increase salaries at all for staff, then that would eliminate 850,000 of that forecast.
And you start losing.
And we start losing staff, yes. Another roughly 600,000 of that is health insurance. So that makes up, you add those 2 numbers together, that's about 1.45 million of the 1.8 million. That's the large chunk of it. And the reason why is we're not getting the revenue from the state funding formula to offset that. Just because they say you get $325 more per pupil, that doesn't equate to, in the funding formula, you'd have to have either a growing population or students staying the same. Unfortunately, we have a declining enrollment of about 60 students. So the way the funding formula works out, it ends up being about a $200,000 increase for this coming year's budget over the prior year's budget, as it's really the revenue limit increase. So nowhere near keeping up with CPI or inflationary costs. So with that in mind, we have to take measures, either freezing salaries, eliminating positions, in order to keep the budget moving forward and operating. So as we looked at this, 2 areas that we looked at, rather than freezing salaries, rather than laying off 18 staff members, and increasing class sizes substantially. Was looking at a health insurance transition, which that is our second largest expenditure in the district after salaries is the health insurance. And with our staff average age at 48, we are more of an aging staff population, and that doesn't do great on the utilization standpoint of medical expenses. So we're looking at two main factors, which is the health insurance transition to that ICHRA model, and Taylor has it memorized, so I'll let her share what the acronym stands for.
Individual coverage health reimbursement arrangement.
Thank you. And then the spousal coverage.
And I'm always going to point out that those two numbers are only half for this year of our savings because it starts in January.
Yes.
Don't add those two together and go, oh, we're saving $2 million. We only are saving half that
For this
upcoming fiscal year.
Yep.
So the ICHRA, one of the reasons why we looked at this ICHRA is one of our big struggles that we've had and feedback from our staff insurance committee over the years. Granted, I want to acknowledge we did not involve the staff insurance committee on this decision. It's a substantial change in not choosing between insurance coverages per se, but actually a complete kind of paradigm shift on how we're addressing this benefit. But it does maintain feedback that they've always provided, which is choice of medical provider. Could we get savings by going to a narrow network? You have to go to this provider. Here's where you're going. We could, but that's been extremely unpopular with our staff. And really the only real narrow network providers would have caused about an 80% disruption on current staff's medical providers. Mercy HMO, that's the tightest or the more substantial narrow network in our area, and only about 20% of our staff use that. So it would have been a huge disruption. We have seen others do Mercy. We've seen others go to Dean Care, which would be even more disruptive. So that was a choice. We didn't go that route based off of prior feedback. It provides flexibility because what we're going to be doing instead is the district will provide the staff members an HRA dollar amount equivalent to the cost to purchase a model policy on the exchange. But they can choose to go with that model policy, or they can choose a different policy. They can choose one that here's my doctor and providers and what works best in my area. I want this plan instead.
Off the marketplace.
Off the marketplace, yes. Right. So in our region alone in Elkhorn, there are 46 different plans that they could choose from for themselves and their family. The other flexibility is they also have the ability that a spouse, could choose an entirely different plan than their partner. They don't have to take the same plan. That may work for someone who, well, I like my provider, it's over here, this is a better cost. They can do that. And then they keep the difference in the cost, or they pay additional if they want a richer plan, so to speak. It provides greater stability and predictability. One of the problems that we have is trying to project on our pool what our loss ratio is going to be from year to year. 1 year, not too long ago, when we transitioned to self-funded, that wasn't because we necessarily wanted to bite the bullet at that time, but it was our best quote that we got back was a 40% increase over the prior year because of our loss ratio, our utilization. And so it's like, well, we can't incur increasing our med expenditure by over $2 million. So we had to substantially change that benefit structure and plan. Now it's in the marketplace. Are those benefits going to go up? They are, but it's a much larger pool and greater stability than group our size. And we're a fairly large district. People have asked, well, haven't you looked at partnering with other districts? We have. The problem is you've got to find another district who has a similar med expenditure than yours and a similar loss ratio. Because if I'm a neighboring district whose average staff age is 20, let's say 35, I'm like, you guys are average 48. Why would we want to partner with you? That's going to jump our rates up. So there's always a winner and a loser unless you found two that have the exact same profile. Yeah. And then even in that year it may work, but then the next year it's like, wait, that group is way off base. We're not, and it doesn't work. So we looked at others. We talked about that. The single providers, we looked at maintaining the current high deductible health plan. And one of the recommendations from them was, why don't you guys just drop the HSA contribution? Most districts don't provide that. You're paying over $1 million a year in health savings account benefits. You could just keep the deductibles the same, not change anything, and eliminate $1 million in HSA contributions. That would put a huge cost burden on those families, and the district would utilize it by them then having a high deductible plan with no resources added to help cover that. So another recommendation was perhaps you should look at eliminating the cash in lieu of insurance, which is $400,000. The challenge to that is if you eliminate the cash in lieu of insurance, how many of those then take the insurance and offset it? All it would take is of the 120 that take the cash in lieu of insurance, which is $3,600 a year, it would only take about 15 of them to take our insurance instead. And now you've cut the salary of 120 people by eliminating cash in lieu, and you've incurred just as much or more liability. So we feel that's a risk. In fact, one of the things that I think we still should look at by surveying staff is what would happen if that cash in lieu perhaps was incentivized a little bit higher? Does that, make it then, oh, well, that makes more sense where I don't take the HRA contribution, but I take my spouse's coverage instead. But there's a lot of staff members, because spousal coverage has been eliminated in the private industry for years, that there's a lot that they don't necessarily have that option to go on their spouse's coverage. And then family savings plans. We looked at that. Can you speak to that one?
Yeah, this was, okay, if we can incentivize our staff to go on their spouse's plan. It's a plan that's set up that would pay for the claims incurred under the spouse's plan. That sounds great. CISA 1 did it.
And 2
did it. But the projected savings are very, very minimal when you actually look at the nitty-gritty.
We've had that happen to us in the sense where we've then assumed the health liability because the employer said, hey, if you go on their plan, we'll give you X dollars plus we'll cover your deductible through reimbursements, because they know that getting them off their plan is financially beneficial. So the way it works for the employees, again, they'll receive a dollar amount at the beginning of each month, equivalent to that HRA contribution that has been identified or benchmarked to a bronze level plan. They can then choose, if they choose a plan that's less expensive, the difference is in their account and eligible to be used on medical expenses, kind of like an HSA, but it's in their HRA. They have a debit card with it, so they can pay the bills, the co-pays right with that debit card. They can add additional monies either to that HRA, or if they select an HSA eligible plan, that's health savings account, that's theirs. All of our employees who have those health savings accounts from the past years, that's still theirs, that's still their money, and they have that money to use if they choose to on the health plan, or they can just let it continue to grow in investment accounts and build and use it when they see fit.
Is the money in the HSAs that rolls over, right?
Yeah, HSA is their money.
At the end of the year, okay.
No. HSA is theirs. They can invest it in the market or bonds, whatever they want. HRA, that's health reimbursement account. Again, it's theirs as long as they're employed by us, and they can use that to pay for medical expenses. They don't have to submit reimbursements like the old HRA accounts used to, like, oh, here's my receipts, and then you pay.
I think along that lines, a really good question that was brought up today is an employee said, okay, district, this sounds great. I am going to be getting money to pay my premium, but what if I don't have the funds up front to pay my premium and wait for the reimbursement? We will fund that card so that the employee would never have to be in a situation of coming up with that premium on their own and then waiting for reimbursement. It's funded in the way that we get the amounts the employee is going to be paying, we reimburse so that the employee has the money on that card. And they're not having to fund it themselves.
Say if they wanted, and we looked at this scenario today, that one of the employees like, well, I think, I use a little bit more medical expenditure. I might want a silver plan instead of the bronze plan. Well, then they can look at that. They looked at silver plans, and depending on that employee's age, it could range anywhere from, we saw some that were just $13 a month more to some that were $140 a month more. So if they chose one, whatever that dollar amount difference was, when they select that plan through our finance office, it would be added to their payroll deduction. So pre-tax, that additional dollar amount would go into the HRA account from their payroll to pay the premium.
Okay.
So they would pay
And that's
the
pre-tax,
difference.
so they're not,
Pre-tax,
that's,
yeah.
that's pretty, that's a
You're
good
getting
deal.
that tax savings.
Yeah.
So then they have that debit. Any questions on how that works? Right, so this is an illustration. This varies, and I don't know how great it varies. I was pleasantly surprised because I'm 51 when we pulled up the actual plan today. To give you an idea, I think was my plan $743, I think, a month. So, you look at the chart for a 45-year-old on this plan in Region 12, it's $607 a month. So the district would put $607 a month in there for the employee. If they get money for their dependents as well, we don't know. We'll have to check that exact dollar amount. It's around $300 per dependent that's under the age of 26. After you have, the nice thing is if you have a large family, like myself, although my older ones aren't on my insurance anymore, but had it been when I had 5 kids, you only get charged for up to 3, and then the others are free. So you would get a maximum of $3 amounts for the dependents. And then if you have a spouse that's eligible, we'll talk about that spousal piece in a second, you would also get the contribution amount determined for the spouse based on their age as well. And then that would get paid for the premiums. So for example, I am 51. I think my dollar amount was $743. So that's what the HRA contribution would be. We were proposing, we did this at the budget retreat, to currently staff pay 11% for the health insurance premium. Under this structure, we proposed, because we're not going to have an HSA contribution, we propose that we fully fund that benchmark plan so that it's as if they're not having any payment at all for a premium. Again, there's not a school district health plan in this model. It's a benefit that we're giving to them to purchase an eligible plan. And you can see if you're 60, that would be the dollar amount for that benchmark plan. If you're 65 or Medicare eligible, they're not eligible to receive the HRA piece. They need to go on Medicare. We can give an HRA contribution that they can use for Medicare Part B. So that's how it works for them. They go on Medicare, but then their Medicare Part B is covered. I don't know how many we have in that, but we have a handful that are 65. They said that's the group that's going to be the most thrilled because they get somebody to walk them through the Medicare process and all that also.
So we've had some feedback for those that are close to retirement who know that they're going to need a bridge of health plan marketplace before they're eligible for Medicare. They're thrilled with this model because they're going to have someone actually walk them through the marketplace, help them get familiar, and kind of help set them up for success. Because that's been one thing. This wasn't a driving factor for moving this direction, but it's one of those hidden benefits that staff have been asking for help navigating that marketplace. They want to retire, but just the health insurance world is so scary. And this was one way that we just kind of stumbled upon that it's actually a benefit to these folks as well to help them navigating it all.
Looking at it, they can choose to maintain that stability, similar expenditure to what they currently have. We're hoping to have that predictability and the potential savings, which will help mitigate the shortfall that we have, but also allow us to provide compensation increases to the staff. And there is a trade-off here, and we'll speak to that in a second. We want to be transparent on that. All of these plans on the marketplace, I think something that stood out to me that was a little surprising is the maximum out-of-pocket that exists operates much differently than in a more traditional style plan or like an employer provided plan like what we had provided. Do we have those slides in here? No? Okay. So this is the actual structure of the plan. And in a pro, it's a $0 taken from the paycheck. It's a $0 deductible plan. So currently we're on a $4,000, $8,000 deductible. So nothing gets covered until you hit $4,000 as an individual, including prescriptions, including your non-wellness visits to your doctor. You're paying the full amount until you hit that deductible. We do have an HSA contribution that helps offset some of that liability, but in this structure, they're gonna get benefits from day one. Your preventative care is covered in full, just like it is currently. That's part of the Affordable Care Act. As long as you're not going in there to do your wellness visit and talking about other ailments, you're not gonna have a bill. And we've coached our staff on that, because the doctors, they're good at checking, okay, we did the wellness visit, plus they complained of an earache, so that's. So then you're gonna have if they choose this plan, they would have a $40 copay for their primary care specialist, $150 copay for their specialists like a dermatologist or oncologist or anything like that. Urgent care is $100 copay. What I will say is we still are maintaining our partnership with Nice Healthcare, which provides zero cost online visits and in-person visits, depending on whether the ailment is qualified for them to see. Plus, how many prescription drugs? I think close to 800 prescriptions at no cost to the employees.
Physical therapy, mental health therapy, x-rays.
I do all of my diabetes specialist is through there, so I would have zero copay continuing with her. Inpatient hospitalization, that's probably the scariest or the biggest bugaboo of this plan is you have a $3,000 copay for an inpatient. That would be an overnight hospitalization stay. After that visit is fully covered. So you're still not going to hit that $4,000 deductible like when my daughter broke her wrist and we had to go primaries. Boom, we knew, well, that's $4,000. And then, and Hector got meningitis, boom, that's up at Children's, that's $4,000. So at least there's a copay, although those that I talked about would be lesser copay because neither one of theirs were inpatient. But you'd have inpatient and then outpatient surgery copay was $7,000. And I had a colonoscopy, boom, that's my deductible because that was like a $12,000 procedure. So I knew I was hitting $4,000. On this plan, I would have paid $700. And then you have tiered prescription drug benefit. So we looked at this structured plan compared to our current plan and what does that look like for them based on national averages, and looked at typical users. We picked 48 years old because that's the average age of our staff. So I asked it to look at a household of 2 adults and 3 kids that, average age of 48. So 65% of typical users would have throughout the year some primary specialist visit, urgent care, and then prescription generic. So this doesn't factor in that we have Nice or anything like that to offset it. Typical expenditure on this copay plan would be around $780 for the individual out of pocket, which isn't bad. On the high deductible plan, it could be upwards around that $4,000 range. The moderate user, which represents about 25% of the population, and this is the breakdown of the type procedures that a moderate user would have. You could expect, 1 inpatient hospital stay. Could be a birth of a child. It could be, I don't know, tonsils. Do they do outpatient on the same day, or is it could? I don't.
Usually same day.
Yeah. So that could be an outpatient surgery. You've got generic prescriptions, so forth, urgent care, and primary specialists. Anyways, on this copay plan, a family could expect to pay $5,960. On our current plan, $8,000, which I can attest to. My family, we've hit it the last 3 years. So advantages, you avoid the large early year costs. Copays replace unpredictable co-insurance. I can say I kind of dread it each year when January comes because I know, okay, I'm going to have to pay 100% of my prescription.
Yep.
So I hit my deductible. And so that was a large chunk each January and February.
But doesn't our research show that we only have 80% of our
No.
employees?
20%.
20% actually hit our deductible.
The family deductible. So 20% of our households
They're not even getting to that 4,000 or 8,000.
So 80% of our households didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was with them covering all their costs until they hit that.
Right.
And then 10% of the families, would be those higher users on the deductible plan. This is where the first group that has more of an outlay or an expenditure because of that out-of-pocket maximum being higher. Under the copay plan, they could typically be at that 11,800. I don't want to say typically, but that's what that average, they could hit that. And then the deductible plan would be that 8,000, and then everything was covered after that on our current plan. Granted, costs are covered over time, so you do have co-pays, you can set up payment plans and so forth, but that is a real potential cost that some of our employees could have, and that dollar amount could be higher. Like if they take the plan that we benchmarked, the individual out-of-pocket max was 10,000, the family out-of-pocket max was 20,000. So they had really bad luck, and two people had multiple inpatient surgeries. In theory, they could get that higher dollar amount. This is another chart breakdown of that expenditure. We have an idea to mitigate that cost, and it's something that I should have done for the last few years, but something that we're working with USI to provide to staff as an optional coverage, and that would be a supplemental coverage. And such as everyone probably has heard more because they're very commercial, and is AFLAC, or you can buy a supplemental coverage plan where you can get a hospitalization indemnification or an accident insurance piece. You mind sharing yours?
Of course, you all know, I just had my baby 5 months ago, and I, through my husband's employer, picked up a hospital indemnity plan because I knew with the birth and her expenses that we were easily going to meet our $8,000 deductible. So what we did is we picked up a hospital indemnity plan that paid $2,000 for my hospitalization, and then we got some additional cash payout for her hospitalization. So they took that money, helped apply to my deductible. So it kind of safeguarded how much I actually had to pay at the end of the day. So hoping that this would also be the safeguard that employees can elect to choose to protect themselves should they have crazy high claims in 1 year.
So USI is looking to direct partner because those type plans are typically loss leads for the company because they want you to, they sell it to you at a good price. It was what, $75 a month?
For a family.
So for the year, she got that additional coverage, which if you have a hospitalization, you're getting $2,000 plus. I think they usually have a benefit for each day you're in the hospital. So it ends up being very easily, it could be close to that $3,000 copay that you're getting a cash reimbursement for. So then you can, for under $1,200 a year, you could mitigate that potential exposure of the maximum out of pocket. And financially, looking at the different plans, that's a much better expenditure than paying $300 to $400 more a month for like a gold level plan or a higher silver level plan to try to lower that. Because we're still seeing maximum out of pockets. We looked at them $10,000, $11,000 on the gold level plans for the family. So that's a strategy that we want to make readily available to staff and have a direct contract for them. So there are some slides, you can go through those that we'll get more detail once we get that pricing agreements with those companies. But like in my scenario, I figured, I have my HSA contribution, but had I had Layla had an accident, I get a $2,000 cash payment, that would have really offset that item. So really, in theory, I think anybody on a high deductible plan or high copay plans should probably consider that. So that's a lot that we've gone through here on this, but and when we're looking at the supplemental, especially those that know their high usage, they're going to get large financial benefits from that supplemental insurance that will offset that copay structure.
When do you think you'll have to roll the new program out, timing wise?
Part of October.
Yeah, that's when the marketplace opens up for selection.
First of all, thank you. This is a huge undertaking. Have you had a lot of questions, comments, concern from staff? I mean, has it been generally positive, or how's that
once we've walked them through the presentation, the general census is almost a sigh of relief to kind of see the big picture, because at first the email was, oh my gosh. The biggest complaint so far is the staff feel burdened that they now need to become insurance experts. And I understand for staff, this is a really tough pill to swallow, because typically this conversation we'd be having in October, we'd say, here's your conversation with OneBridge. Go and have that conversation, have that peace of mind, because we don't have that resource in place yet. And we're asking staff to take a pause. That's causing they want answers. And so they're trying to navigate the marketplace alone right now. And that is very great.
Yeah.
So
We had a wide array of motions, just even in our meeting today at options. I could tell from the body language, we had one staff member who's almost in tears, looking at their personal family situation and speaking with her. Afterwards, it's not that dissimilar from mine, in that she has, a spouse who also happens to be an educator who gets a cash in lieu of insurance. So under our, plan, spouses who have eligible coverage, that's not just eligible coverage, but coverage that meets the Affordable Care Act criterion as an affordable coverage, then they're not eligible to receive the HRA benefit from us, because we're asking that you go and take the insurance through your employer. They don't have to, in theory, take it from their employer. They could still get a plan through the Affordable Care Act, but they're not going to get a subsidy from us because their employer is providing them one. But just like in that case, if that spouse were to go on their employer's plan, like my wife, my wife will lose the cash in lieu of insurance, which is $5,000 for her district, because they know, hey, we'll pay you $5,000, go over to Elkhorn, because it would cost us $15,000, possibly $32,000 if your family took a plan. That's a great deal to give you $5,000 instead of us paying $32,000, and let Elkhorn assume the liability. But for the personal household, we'll lose the $5,000 in income, and then whatever it costs to go on to the Williams Bay plan. She has to pay 10% of the premium. Now, in that same scenario, and I shared with that individual, I'm in that same boat, we'll have to look at, does it make sense for me to take cash in lieu of insurance and pass up the HRA contributions, and then go on the Williams Bay plan, so long as they let you? Because I can tell you, in talking with other superintendents, it's not an if, it's just a matter of when do they take the same strategy, because they can't afford to assume that liability from the spouses and so forth that have eligible coverage. So that's another delineation, helping people understand that if your spouse doesn't have eligible coverage, for now, what we're proposing that we're doing is still providing that HRA contribution for that individual, so you can get family coverage on the exchange. So helping some understand that, because there's some in situations that might be working for a small family business and so forth, that there's anxiety over, geez, what does that plan look like for my spouse? Now we're going to have 2 deductibles, because if they're on a different plan, I'm on a plan. Although in theory, on a family plan, you really kind of do have 2 different deductibles anyways. You've got a $4,000, unless your kids utilize it quite a bit. But
and we did have an employee also point out though today that being single is now the same as being married with kids. Isn't more of a benefit than
that was my rate. So that it's about time. I want the compensation pay increase. I've been subsidizing these family policies for years. Yeah. So that's why I say a wider rate.
Yeah, I mean, because we're self-employed, we have, we're small business owners, we don't have a choice. We have to use the Affordable Care Act, marketplace health plans. And so at first, when that first came in, I was really nervous about it too. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But as you do it, it's like, it's nothing. Like you get it. It's once you do it once, it's pretty easy to figure out from it's just that first year that's a little nerve-wracking, but yeah.
once you explain that to them, when Jason says it, yeah, get it, but how do we get somebody with all of those questions to be in Jason's position where he knows what he can and should do for his.
Right.
You know, so there's something in October that would.
Yes.
that would-
Every employee can partner with
Right.
Lumbridge, the cost
Okay.
that's not being passed on to them, they'll pay for it, so. Time set aside, intentional time that they kind of share their.
And I can guarantee you though, their fears will be alleviated when they work with that person. They'll be able to explain it to them, and it's actually more simple than what they think.
And then my question is, if a spouse or an employee had the qualifying event, like their spouse becomes unemployed, they were on their insurance and now needs to accept ICRA, will OneBridge be available for them at a later time? Okay.
For new hires all throughout the year, absolutely.
Yeah.
That was a good question.
I like, I've been excited for this possibility of this structure for some time to get ourselves into a more stable where we're not crap, what's our loss ratio this year? Oh darn, we had another illness. It's that we can look at things from an employer from that piece is 100% just sympathetic and, you know, whatever we can do to support the individuals the best. I always hated having that in the back of my mind, knowing, you know, the fiscal impact and so forth on the district and or even employees who had that cognizance awareness. We've had employees who have switched insurances to their spouse just because they felt bad costing the district, knowing the self-funded model or knowing the loss ratio that, oh, we're hurting budgetarily. I don't want to keep hurting the school district from that. In this case, it has no impact on us. You can have the worst luck in a year and that's not going to impact your local district budget or the employee pool one iota. Because it's being covered through that CARE Act exchange is huge. It's not going to impact us locally.
Yeah, the exchange, I mean, the rates do increase.
They do.
Year to year, so don't think that it's not gonna increase, but it's.
No, they do. Yeah.
Yeah, the rates do increase.
But we knock on wood, we shouldn't see increases like
No.
the 40%, which was our best quote.
Right.
In 1 year. So I think that piece was there, but you know, what complicates it a little is we're also combining with the spousal.
Yes.
Part we're up to, you know, the estimate is, I don't think it'll come in that high. We're only estimating, right now we spend over $2 million a year on spousal healthcare costs. Makes up about 43% of the total expenditure. We're projecting about half of that being saved, although 85% statistically should be eligible for employer-based health coverage. So I think it's a conservative estimate that we're putting forward there on that. So, and I wouldn't recommend that we change that estimated savings. We're not going to know until we go through this the first time.
Right.
And again, you have to divide that into. Yeah.
Yes.
It's only half of that. Yeah.
Right.
Any other questions on that?
Thank you.
Yeah,
That was might be good and important.
and I think staff are, part of it is helping understand the why. I hope they're appreciative and it's sad that they see other districts next to us having to lay off lots of staff members, having to cut positions, having to close schools. But I think it also helps bring an awareness. Okay, we're being creative. We're putting in strategies not to negatively impact that.
I don't really like to forecast too much, but the other districts in the area are
Yeah.
probably gonna be right behind us and maybe be saying like St. Louis. So
We tend to lead the way.
And for peace of mind, I had a conversation with a staff member who's in one of the lower percentages. And the conversation was she was concerned, a little scared, but then, you know, also understands our position and wants what's best for the district. And I think from that position, that was reassuring to me, knowing, yes, I know you're doing the right thing for us. Right. It just stinks that individual is in that position.
Absolutely.
But as a collective, it's the right thing to do. So that was pretty good for us making that decision. It was a positive conversation.
All right.
Any other questions? All right. Move on to the first reading of revised professional and support staff employee handbooks.
So just a few edits, or recommended edits for this coming school year. So the first one is eliminating the very, very black and white breakfast, lunch, and dinner reimbursement, and instead align it with whatever the federal IRS prescribed rates are for wherever that employee is. So for example, if an employee is traveling and they're going to a very, very high cost place, high cost living, they're probably not able to get breakfast for $8.
Or lunch for $9.
Or lunch for $9. So this just allows a little bit more flexibility for being here in our reimbursement rate.
You might be able to get Culver's for dinner.
Maybe.
Yeah. And what's nice is the IRS has it for just about every major city that you're in.
Yeah.
It's Milwaukee or Chicago or wherever.
Yeah.
10.1 is going to be specific to our support staff who work all year long. So the first section here is just X'd out because these were specific to employees hired before July 1st, 2013. They've all now made it into, Jason, if you scroll down, that farthest box, years 11 plus. So we can kind of shore this up, make it a little bit more simple. But in reflecting in the last probably 3 years of hiring, we have seen the data show that vacation PTO time is on the rise. And when we go to hire our 12-month full-time employees, we are hiring great qualified staff. But when we tell them you're getting 10 days of PTO and they're very seasoned, great experienced staff members, they go, no way am I accepting your job for 10 days of PTO.
Yeah.
And so in reflecting and looking at all of our hires, we would like to make the recommendation that our support staff are mirrored vacation PTO days with our year-round administrators. So that all staff would get 24 days. 5 days can be paid out per policy, mirroring those two policies. But this would be one way that we can try to retain and attract our year-round staff and make it more competitive to local businesses and other school districts.
Yeah. And it's still, again, it's not as high as some, but I think it's a fair split. It's just we've lost candidates. We lost one for Jill's position that, it's just I can't give up the 6 weeks of PTO that I have from Aurora. And that's someone who's only worked there at Aurora 5 years, but it would have been a pay cut plus 2 weeks of lost time.
About 85% of our support staff are really long tenured staff members. And so they're already in that farthest 11 plus box. And so they're already getting the 24, 25 days in some cases. So it's a small number of staff members that are a little bit newer who would be impacted by this, but it would greatly help with employee engagement and morale at no cost because there's no subs for these positions.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Next section here is for our professional staff, all the different things that they are involved with student-wise beyond just their normal contract. And so everything in black is current. If you keep scrolling, Jason, there's going to be blue eventually. Like, for example, middle school musical is booming in numbers, very exciting opportunities for those students and need 2 advisors for that to make that happen.
If anyone asks why the different dollar amounts are, that's all based off of projection of the number of hours spent. So if anyone's ever out of whack and they're like, hey, I don't feel this stipend reflects what I do, then we can reassess it and base it off it. And we do that on a semi-regular basis, like student council.
Student council as well.
Correct, yep. And we ask them go through, lay out all your events and what's your estimated time on the events. And then we can adjust that. Likewise, we have adjusted them down in the past too when the times weren't there.
Yeah. We added 2 elementary vocal directors. We increased the weight room supervisor to $15 an hour.
Tap to. I remember I think we started at 10.
Slowly moving our way up.
You should start off work study.
And then if you keep scrolling, we are with Ryan moving into his role and Emily Lynn kind of transitioning, it was identified that we need some core leaders in each of our building on our special ed team to kind of be that leadership position and support Ryan, support the director of special education for kind of being the boots in the ground in all those buildings. And so we had a middle school and a high school building leader. We'd like to now formally add one at each of the elementaries, as well as the charters and the early childhood magnet program. just to recognize these staff for going above and beyond their day and being kind of the leader of their building.
Like the department head, but of the whole
Correct.
building for that.
The time and the requirements are a bit more than our traditional department leaders, hence the greater staff. And then the last one here, we are really excited to share that we have a lot more substitute teacher interest. We have been a great job kind of bringing them in, but we now need to kind of incentivize them to take on more assignments. We want them to choose us. We want them to stay with us versus do a couple multiple schools. So the thought is if we incentivize and say, hey, after 10 times of subbing, those 10 times be paid at 130. Your time 11 plus, it'll be paid at $160 a day. Now, it won't be consecutive if they're serving in one consecutive assignment long term. That's a different situation, a different rate. But for those subs that continually work with us and pick up assignment after assignment after assignment, helping all of our teachers, the thought would be increase their daily rate to 160 is a little bit more of a incentive to stay and want to work here.
And they get free lunch.
And they get free lunch.
Yeah, free lunch, right.
Did we see an uptick due to the free lunch?
We did. We had some very happy subs.
Sandy check, that said within the same school year, right? I was reading through it.
Oh.
So it's, okay.
It would
During that
reset.
school
It
year.
resets. Okay, yeah, I thought I saw it.
But I can't.
Yeah, there's definitely, I think, a benefit to the students to have familiar faces substituting rather than a revolving door. So.
And for this retirement class that we have, we already have built in there that for retirees, they get 160.
Oh, sure.
Mhm.
Okay.
So they actually have a pay escalator.
And that's it. You can ignore that page. That's it for the handbook.
Okay.
Any initial questions on anything that we covered? Easy this year.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
All right.
I like the IRS one.
You can move it. Personnel recommendations.
Thank you.
The personnel sheet is attached. It's pretty lengthy. Are there any questions?
The only question, it's not really a question, but maybe just a request is on transfers, I'd like to be able to see what school were they in? Or, like what were they doing? And what are they transferring? Because I think we're seeing what they're transferring to, but we don't know what they were doing,
Sure.
transferring from.
Where's an example of this?
There's only 2 transfers on this one. Alyssa Struck and Carrie Steinbauer.
Okay, so Alyssa Struck, yeah, I can speak to those, but we can do a better, we can add that in the description.
Yeah.
Alyssa Struck was an elementary teacher at Jackson, so she's transferring into the reading specialist at Jackson. We had that position was open internally.
Okay.
I think they had quite a bit of interest. I think about 6 applicants. Does that sound right? They did interviews and she was selected by the interview team for that. And then the other one was Carrie
Steinbauer, right.
Carrie was.
Middle schools. Well, so she's now doing middle school science.
So Carrie was doing middle school math,
Okay.
8th grade math, and we need a 612 licensed individual to teach the math in order for the students to receive high school credit for that class.
Okay.
And Carrie originally felt like, yep, I'll go and I'll take the test to get that certification, and then changed her mind, didn't want to do that or couldn't fit it in. And so we had the science opening and she requested a transfer to that position.
Okay.
And then we'll be hiring, that's posted internally and externally for that math position.
Okay.
And we'll be looking for a 612 licensed person. So we can make sure the middle schoolers can be awarded the high school credit for algebra and geometry.
Yes.
Any other questions? Looking for a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve the personal recommendation sheet for April 27th, 2026, including the new employment contracts, contingent upon passing the background check and district mandated drug screening as presented.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the personnel recommendation sheet for April 27th, 2026, including new employment contracts conditioned upon passing the background check and district mandated drug screening as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All opposed? Oh,
We'll let it pass this.
thanks.
No, you're doing fine. You're doing fine.
Little gifts, Mr. Teddy.
And we got two gifts this evening. The American Legion donated $400 to the Snack in a Pack program, and Amerigold Logistics donated $350 to the high school athletic department.
Move to accept these generous gifts as presented.
Second.
And moved and seconded to accept the generous school gifts as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Is Americold Logistics that a local company?
Marion.
Okay.
It's a cold storage. It's not Birdseye anymore, but it's right next to it.
Cool. All right, approval of the CISA contract.
Okay, this is the CISA contract with the X are the services selected. And you can see not a large number of services, but and so we're just looking for the year.
So you're recommending not renewing
With
dialogue with
attorney.
attorney.
Yeah, and then when we get a new director of special education, and they may say, hey, I would really like dialogue with an attorney, and we can add it back at that time. But Ryan didn't feel the service was necessary.
Okay.
We did utilize our legal counsel in a couple cases that you're aware of. But yeah, so that's one that we're recommending not prepaying for, and then we can always add that.
Okay.
Later.
And some of these items we take in from other CISAs, correct?
They do partner across, but I'm not, so these would be the ones through CISA too.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, there are things listed that we're not getting because we're getting them from like CISA.
Oh, could be, yeah.
Or other independent contractors.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Any questions?
I move to approve the 2026-2027 CISA 2 contract as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2026-2027 CISA 2 contract as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Summer school budget.
Taking a look at the summer school budget, it's mirrored what it was, how it ran last year. The differences in what's going on is they had to add a bus route in the afternoon to accommodate the summer sunset program that's going to be at. So there's an extra bunch of kids that are getting moved around, so that's an extra cost. And the way that our FTE is figured is 6 kids lower than last year, and that is essentially the difference in us. Instead of making a little bit of money, we're going to lose a little bit of money. Okay. So if you come down here at the very bottom and look at our total grand budget, it's like $307,000 of cost, and the special note number 5 is going to be the income that we get from the program, and special note number 1 is the fees. Originally, before I was done, I was going to say, hey, I think we should get rid of fees, and then I said, well, let's not get rid of fees. So I set my own, because if we were positive, that would have been my recommendation, but other than that, we're just going to take a little bit closer look to make sure all our classes are full for next year and make some close recommendations.
How much is that added route costing us in the afternoon?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay. I guess my only thought is, I mean,
It's like $5 or $6 grand. It's like, it's not It's,
Summer school transportation is not required. I feel like it would significantly impact our numbers if it wasn't provided. But I'm wondering is if we're doing like basically a transport in the afternoon to a type daycare, I don't know if that's something that'd be worthwhile looking into. Do we have a busing fee if you're wanting to transfer to a location like that or no fee? I don't know.
I think for the $7,000,
It's a good
like
service.
we can go look at it closer next year. That'd be my recommendation if you want to do something else and look at it.
I think it's a nice service to provide the families and so forth, but.
Okay. Looking for a motion.
I move to approve the 2026 summer school budget as presented.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2026 summer school budget as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
If we don't use it, continue.
Unless anyone think, oh no, summer school running a little bit in the red, which we want to get it budgeted again, but unless we're thinking we should drop summer school, it's actually in the Act 20 is going to be required mandatory summer school next year for remedial reading piece. So all these districts that don't have summer school have to add the program. And it probably will not be self-sufficient from a financial obligation because you're going to have to pay,
Not to just run that.
you know, it's still to be determined, you have to pay reading specialists to deliver the interventions or in groups of 4. So just do your staffing ratio, 4 students to 1 individual on the interventions. And from a cost standpoint, that's not.
Right.
Like, you know, I'm sure the state will create a allocation to offset the financial liability the districts are going to incur with this program. Of course, it's something to bring up as we're talking about legislative or something next go around.
Announcements.
I just a reminder that we've got the adjourn into closed session. I will say the purple and gold is this Saturday. I asked for another email, should have gone out this afternoon. If you are available to go, that's always a fun event and supports the Scholarship Foundation. Otherwise, we have a fun-filled month of graduations and awards coming up in May. It's going to go by quick because the school year ends earlier this year.
Yeah.
And graduation party planning. That's fun.
Yes.
All
All right.
I'll make a motion to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, parent 1, parent C, to discuss professional and support staff contracts and compensation for the 2026-2027 school year. The school board will not reconvene into open session.
Second.
Moving to seconded to adjourn to contemplated closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, Para 1, Para C, to discuss professional and support staff contracts and compensation for the 2026-2027 school year. School board will not reconvene in open session. Do we roll call or?
We roll call both sessions. Mr. Andre?
Yes.
Eric Gordon?
Yes.
Mrs. Ingersoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Costock?
Yes.
Mrs. Reckley's?
Yes.
Mr. Scara?
Yes.
Mrs. Vaughn?
Yes.
Mr. Graving?
Yes.
I'm saying. All right. Why do you say don't work?
Have a great close up, you guys.
Thanks.
Oh.
I'll send this so I know. There's some minutes in there.
All right, Taylor, which document do you want pulled up?
Does anybody need a minute to stretch or go?
I need to use the-
Yeah, I got it.
I'll get it out of here.
Pass them down to them.
Do I have it or?
Because I will have it.
Okay.
You stop recording.
Thank you.
Thank you.